So my name is Gatete Nyiringabo Ruhumuriza.
Okay.
So I'm a human rights lawyer. Again, forgive me for my outfit. I'm going to a wedding.
No problem.
I'm actually late.
No problem.
So I'm a human rights lawyer, researcher, and I write in the newspapers.
Okay, so you identify more as a human rights lawyer?
As a lawyer.
As a lawyer?
Yes.
A
And
human rights
a researcher.
And a researcher. What kind of research are you into?
So I don't do that anymore now, but for the last 3 years I worked for a think tank as a senior fellow in governance.
Okay.
So my job was to evaluate performance contracts of leaders. Because in Rwanda here, if you're a leader, you sign a contract at the beginning of the year of what you're going to accomplish. And then from a central government leader to a local leader, you say, I'm going to build a bridge, to build a road, a school, a market, and so on. That's in the local leaders. But government leaders, we're going to pass this policy, we're going to expand productivity of in agriculture, and so on. And then at the end of the year, researchers go in and evaluate how this has been done. Because when it started, they evaluated themselves and they gave themselves marks, and so then the government hired a private think tank to go in and do the evaluation in an independent manner, and which is what I did for 3 years. But that was in a think tank, so that means I also did research and published on governance in Rwanda.
Let's talk about Blinken's coming. What is your first reaction to it?
I have no reaction. Blinken coming, officials come to Rwanda all the time.
So this is not new, there's nothing special.
We have heads of states who come, so if we have a minister coming, there's nothing special about it, for me, as far as I'm concerned.
So it's just something regular.
Yeah.
All right. But there are so many conversations that are surrounding his coming, one of which is, I think the biggest one that has been gaining traction has been the Congo and Rwanda conflict. Basically the conflict that is going on in Congo, and then the alleged Rwandan...
It's a Congo-Rwanda conflict, indeed. There's a Congo-Rwanda conflict going on because Congo suspended partnerships with Rwanda, suspended Rwanda Air from flying into Kinshasa. So there is indeed a conflict between our two countries, and Angola has been working hard to bring the two parties together.
Why is Congo suspending Rwanda of all these? I know there's a trade...
So there's one accusation.
Okay.
The DRC accuses Rwanda of supporting a movement called the M23. Now the M23 is a movement made of Congolese citizens, but who speak Kinyarwanda, who are of Rwandan, let's say, descent or origin, I don't know, but they've been there since the 16th century, some, and later. And these people are there before the Congo became the Congo. The Congo is divided like the rest of Africa. You're an African, you know this. The Congo is divided like the rest of Africa in the Berlin Conference of 1885. And some people Congo, just like Ghana or Nigeria or any other country, some people find themselves on one side of the border, yet the rest of the community is on the other side of the border, because the border is divided arbitrarily. But these people, especially the Tutsi of them, have struggled to be accepted in their area because the people who committed the genocide in Rwanda were defeated, fled to Congo, and continued with their genocide ideology against Tutsi, but in Congo. So then it became, so after they were unable to kill Tutsi in Rwanda because Rwanda had, the current government had, defeated and repelled them, they fled into Congo. They continued to be organized there, and they turned against Tutsi, but from Congo this time. But the DRC is accusing Rwanda of supporting M23. What is M23? M23 is a movement that is fighting to go back home to the DRC. These are Congolese, but they struggle to be accepted in Congo as Congolese. Why? Because they speak Kinyarwanda, and because they look Tutsi. But these people are Congolese. When the borders were divided in 1885 in the Berlin Conference, you had in Ghana, in Nigeria, everywhere across Africa, all the world actually, but across Africa in particular, in the Berlin Conference they divided Africa. Some communities would find themselves in a different country, still on the ancestral land, but in a different country. And these people, that's how they found themselves being Congolese, because the borders between Rwanda and Congo were divided. They found themselves on the other side. But they sit on their ancestral land. Some say they're there since the 16th century, so that's a long time ago. and later. But why is there animosity against them? This animosity has existed for a long time because they have a different way of life. They're cattle keepers. And people who live around them are, some of them are farmers, others are just, they don't have that kind of livelihood. They have a different type of livelihood. They hunt and so on. So they struggle to be accepted. But this was exacerbated by when people who committed the genocide in Rwanda were defeated, the current government defeated and repelled them, they fled into the DRC. Now, since they couldn't kill Tutsi in Rwanda anymore, they turned against Tutsi in Congo, causing the Tutsi in Congo to flee their communities and to go into refugee camps. So in Rwanda, we have around 100,000, give or take, people in a refugee camp for the last 10 years. In Uganda, same thing. Some have gone to the Europe. They're scattered. They don't no longer live in the communities. These people loot their cattle, burn their villages, and kill them, and rape them, and so on. So that's how they flee. But then they've been asking to go back home, and DRC has been reluctant to allow them to go back home. That's how this movement started. Movement like M23 started to ask them to go back to their country. Now, 10 years ago, M23 means movement of the 23rd of March. M23, March 23 of 2003. So that's when the DRC accepted to sign peace accords with these people. But then this movement has changed names over the years, but their requests have been the same. And one day, the DRC accepted to sit on the same table with them and negotiate how they will go back home. The negotiation achieved three things. This, what you call Nairobi Peace Accords, what you call Addis Ababa Frame Agreement, and so on. So they have all these agreements that they signed with the DRC government. And these accords said three things. One, to allow communities of Rwandophones, because they speak Kinyarwanda, look Rwandan, but they're actually Congolese, to allow them to come from refugee camps and go back to their homesteads, to their villages in the DRC. To allow soldiers, members of this M23 that have not committed crimes, to be incorporated in the DRC government. And to allow the M23 paramilitary movement to stop being a paramilitary movement, to become a political party that can exercise in the DRC. These agreements were signed by the DRC government and this movement M23 and by all regional leaders of this region. But now, the onus was on the DRC government to implement these peace accords. It never happened. So 10 years later, the M23 is coming now to remind the government of the DRC that they have not implemented their requests. Now, when they were defeated 10 years ago, M23 fled the DRC, but some of them went, the military part of the movement went into Uganda, the civilian part came into Rwanda. That's the political part. Now, the political part in Rwanda has not budged, has not left Rwanda, it's still in Rwanda. It's the military group side that is fled into Uganda that have come back to the DRC. But on day one of their attacks, the first thing that the DRC did, the DRC pointed the finger at Rwanda. And in fact, the DRC government army is so weak at the battlefield, which is why M23 keeps seizing these territories as they advance. So they called upon the genocide perpetrators of Rwanda, remember? And collaborate with them in fighting M23. Imagine a national army that is collaborating with the militia of genocide perpetrators to fight a group of nationals with legitimate requests. And now, the UN MONUSCO had been supporting the DRC army because it's their mandate. But now, when the DRC accused Rwanda, it expected everybody to accept this. So they asked MONUSCO to confirm it. MONUSCO said, we have no proof that Rwanda is supporting M23. The next day, Congolese went on the streets, attacked MONUSCO, asked MONUSCO to leave. They said, we don't want you here, you're good for no reason, you can't accuse Rwanda, and you can't defeat M23 on our behalf. So they went, looted, burnt their places, and so on. Today we hear that MONUSCO, now the UN, is saying, perhaps Rwanda is supporting M23, so that they can stay. Because now they see that they're going to leave, they're under pressure to leave the DRC because Congolese people, they didn't didn't support the Congolese claims that Rwanda is supporting M23. Because MONUSCO said publicly, we have no proof of that. The next day, Congo went on the streets and said, we don't want any more MONUSCO here. It's true, MONUSCO has been there for 20 years, and it's never achieved peace. I mean, they have over 130 militia groups in the DRC. Now, these militias, MONUSCO came to the DRC, that's the UN peacekeeping force, to eradicate these militias. They never did. In fact, the only militia they fought successfully was M23 itself 10 years ago. With some political guarantees, they told them, we're going to repatriate your community, the things that I just told you. M23 accepted to retreat. Then we expected MONUSCO and this intervention brigade, special intervention brigade, to attack other militias in Congo. It never happened. So you have over 130 militias, all Congolese, that are in the Eastern DRC, that MONUSCO doesn't fight. That was fine. Kinshasa, if a militia exists in the eastern part of Congo, loots, kills, it doesn't affect Kinshasa politically. The politicians are not affected. It is when a militia is strong enough to seize territory that it becomes a question of optics. MONUSCO, it's an indictment to MONUSCO's incapability, to the Congolese army's incapability, and to the politicians' incapabilities to eradicate militias in the Eastern DRC, which is why all the strength of the government of the DRC, of the international community, is focused on M23, which, according to UN reports that we see every day, is the least violent movement in Congo. It doesn't kill any, it kills people as well, I suppose, because war kills people. Through war, it kills combatants. But these militias that attack civilians and kill and rape them, including the Congolese army, nobody speaks about them. But because M23 advances and seizes territory and has clear requests that are legitimate, they become a political threat and a geopolitical threat, because it's an indictment to the international community that through MONUSCO that is in Congo that has failed to manage the situation in Eastern Congo. So the conflict here, the DRC accuses Rwanda just to save face. It cannot deliver success and territorial integrity to its own population. It cannot deliver on the commitments it made with M23. Instead of speaking of that, addressing that problem, instead of addressing the fact that its army is collaborating with genocide perpetrators, instead of all that, it says, hey, look, the enemy is Rwanda, Rwanda is supporting M23. So it's an optics, it's a political game that they're doing.
Okay, so how do you think Blinken's arrival is going to change this? Do you think it's going to affect any change? Do you think there's going to be any progress? Because you say MONUSCO has been there for 20 years, UN has been there for over 20 years and nothing has changed. So what difference is this to the conflict?
No man can come one day and fix the problems of Congo. If that was true, Congo would be at peace and developing and so on. The only people who will change the situation in Congo is the Congolese. And the best way for the Congolese to do this is for themselves to say, listen, the fault is not Americans or Rwandans or the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. The fault is our politicians and our army. Let's organize ourselves. Let's stop discriminating against people who are Congolese citizens. I mean, they kill Tutsi in Congo. They persecute them. They loot them. Now they've started burning them alive, even eating them. Can you imagine? On social media, you have Congolese, a mob, burning a Tutsi civilian, innocent person, and eating his flesh in front of a camera. So if you have a problem like that, you think one man coming from the US, is it the second return of Jesus? Is he going to come one day and sort out the problem? I wish there was such man who would come one day and solve the problems of this region. Okay,
so in that case, doesn't it affect Rwanda? Because then it means...
It does.
How does it affect Rwanda?
It does immensely. Because, for example, the Congolese army, in partnership with the genocidaires that I told you that are grouped in a militia called the FDLR, they have shelled Rwandan territory 3 times. Now let me explain to you how Rwanda is. Rwanda is a small country, and it's densely populated. A bomb thrown on Rwandan soil has infinitely more impact than a bomb in a Congolese forest. Congo is a huge space. The bombs have been thrown in two places. One place called Kinigi and one place called Gisenyi. Kinigi is where we keep our gorillas, mountain gorillas. That's where, you know, this protected species, endangered species of gorillas. That's where they exist. That's where we have our 5-star hotels that go with it. But you also have communities around these gorillas. So when you the bomb that fell there killed people, destroyed property, and had immense damage. Another one went into Rubavu. Rubavu is a densely populated city. Remember, this is one of the most busiest borders in the world. It's maybe second busiest border in the world is between Rwanda and DRC, the Rubavu-Goma border. That's the busiest. So you can imagine people are always crisscrossing, and that's where you choose to throw a bomb. So we've been shelled 3 times. We never retaliated. Now, this is how Rwanda is. Rwanda is so densely populated, and Rwanda is not a jungle like the DRC. Whenever you throw a bomb in one place, you have immense damage. But the DRC, they don't care. I tell you, they have 130 militias, and Kinshasa doesn't care. The president just came from vacation in Spain last month. In the middle of a war, when half of the territory of the Kivu is taken by a group which has legitimate demands, the president decided to cut and leave and go in a fantastic touristic venue and spend there like 2 weeks. That's the mindset of the Congolese. They don't really care. And it's very easy when you say, you know, the fault is Rwandans. And Blinken, if he comes, is going to fix it. So me, I can go on holidays. See, I'm not responsible for the problem or for the solution. That's the mindset of Congolese politicians. They live in Congo as though they are living in Liechtenstein or I don't know, or Switzerland. They live in Wonderland. And that is the problem, because Kivu is so far remote from Kinshasa that people in Kinshasa, the polity of the DRC does not care. When you ask them what's the problem, they say, oh, problem is Rwanda. Oh, problem is Uganda. Problem is multinationals. Problem is Americans. And what's the solution? Oh, the solution is Blinken. Or the solution is the UN. Or the solution is the MONUSCO. They never take responsibility for the problem. They never take responsibility for the solution. Now, because we live to their border, we get to carry the brand, bear the brand, because we are not as irresponsible as they are. We don't have the luxury of a huge country. This is it's a proverbially critical issue for us. Everything that happens in the Eastern DRC affects us directly. Do you see what I mean? So there are different mindsets. And so Blinken comes here, he's going to come into Rwanda. This is what, I'm not a politician, but I believe this is what the government officials are likely to tell him. Okay,
so then it means that now you think Rwanda doesn't have to do anything in this situation?
Rwanda does.
What does Rwanda have to do?
Well, so Rwanda is trying to become part of the solution.
Okay.
I believe Rwanda, for example, has very compelling reasons to follow closely what's happening in Eastern DRC for 2 reasons. One, we have people who committed the genocide against the Tutsi, who still have the same agenda, who are now operating freely on our shores. That's a threat to us. You have people who are being assimilated to Rwanda, who are being killed, burnt alive, eaten even, who are there, who apparently Congolese call Rwandans. These people are not Rwandans, they're Congolese. They live on their ancestral land for centuries. But they're being killed because apparently they are assimilated to Rwanda. So it's sophistry and demagoguery going around and so on. And people avoid the truth and affirm falsehood for political agenda. I mean, if you're a politician in Congo, if you're a populist and you want to gain popularity in Kinshasa, you say Rwanda. I mean, they had a volcano eruption, they said it's the fault of Rwanda. I mean, it's madness. But so that's who we are condemned to live with until the end of times. So we have to monitor closely what's happening there. So what can Rwanda do? I believe Rwanda did do something. When M23 withdrew from the DRC, Rwanda facilitated, mediated some of the talks between the Congolese government and M23. They sat on the table. That's when they had this peace agreement. which the DRC was supposed to implement. But obviously, again, the DRC is in no particular hurry to implement any of the commitments. Congolese people don't commit to things. I give you an example. There is a leaked report, again. So apparently there's a UN group of experts that now, because MONUSCO, the UN peacekeeping, is under pressure from the Congolese public to leave their country because they can't join in on their delirium saying Rwanda is supporting M23, MONUSCO failed to confirm it. So they are kicking MONUSCO out. And now because MONUSCO is under pressure to leave any time from now, a UN group of experts leaked a report to the media. Now, when a UN group of experts does a report, it's supposed to submit it to the UN. Yeah. And the UN will subject it to peer review mechanisms and see if it's methodologically sound, if it's scientifically sound, and so on. But they never do that, ever. This UN group of experts will take a draft in which they write all sorts of nonsense and leak it to media, for media to run around with it, and for the world to act as though this is the report. Usually when this report gets in front of the UN group, the UN Human Rights Council, and peer reviewed, it's usually dismissed and thrown into the bin. But that does not affect information. People continue to run the fake version that is usually leaked prior to being submitted to the UN. This is the case now. So right now, people are acting as though there's a UN report that links Rwanda to M23. There's no such report. This UN has leaked this paper that they have to placate the Congolese, to make them, it's like cover their faces. So don't kick out MONUSCO just yet. We accept to accuse Rwanda, but we can't officially because we don't have proof. So we're going to leak some version of a report to the media, and then it's going to make you forget. We bet you're going to forget in one day. And indeed, like they know Congolese are excitable, they leaked some bullshit in the media, it's being run, and the Congolese are happy now. MONUSCO doesn't have to leave anymore.
So are you saying that MONUSCO now is in bed with Congolese against Rwanda?
But no. MONUSCO is in bed with Congolese, and Congolese is in bed with the genocide perpetrators, FDLR, according to that leaked version of the report, allegedly. And so indirectly, yes, they're in bed with a terrorist organization that of people who committed the genocide indirectly, because if they support the government army, and the government army is collaborating with...
Okay, so my question is, so you claim, based on your claim, you claim that the MONUSCO is just leaking the UN experts' alleged reports is just so MONUSCO will be accepted in Congo.
Yes.
Is that what you claim?
Because, it's a deduction.
So I'm thinking MONUSCO and UN are supposed to be mediators. Why would they align to one side to the disadvantage of the other?
No, MONUSCO does not have any mandate in Rwanda. MONUSCO does not have anything to do with Rwanda. It's based in Congo, works with Congo.
Okay.
It supports Congo. It's Congo.
It's MONUSCO a Congo...
it's a UN peacekeeping...
Or it's a UN...
Peacekeeping...
Are they supposed to have an affiliate?
No, they're not neutral. They're not neutral. It's a UN peacekeeping operation based for the DRC, for Congo, and its mandate is to support the Congolese army.
Okay.
So they actually fight alongside the Congolese army.
Okay.
So it's really, they have nothing to do with Rwanda. And remember, however, we have a joint verification mechanism which brings together Rwanda, DRC, and the MONUSCO now. Okay. And that one does not say this type of things because it goes with evidence.
Okay. So then, in that case, so now going back to what you're saying. So you're saying that the alleged leak report is just so to favor Congo. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. This is what I observe.
Okay.
Last week, widespread demonstrations against the UN. No, the week before, UN spokesperson says, we have no proof that Rwanda is supporting M23. Says it in the media, it's everywhere.
Okay.
That's 2 weeks ago. Last week, widespread demonstration against MONUSCO, telling them to leave the DRC. 3 days ago, later of the DRC giving 24 hours for the UN MONUSCO spokesperson to leave the country. So that's the guy who said we don't have proof. 3 days ago, the DRC expelled him from the DRC. 2 days ago, a report is leaked saying, oh, by the way, Rwanda is supporting M23. Today, Congolese have forgotten about kicking out MONUSCO, and now they are back to attacking Rwanda. This is a chronology of things. Everybody can make their own conclusion based on this narrative that I've told you. It's not me who's saying this. Okay. This is how things unfolded.
Okay, all right, fair enough. All right, so now let's go to, wait, let me stop this and restart before it cuts. Issues of Blinken. So you're saying that Blinken's arrival is not going to change anything. The US, so let's talk about US, Congo, Rwanda relations. Do you think this is going to change anything? Because it's going to Congo first and then he'll come here. Is there anything that you think, what is your intake? Are you really suggesting that this is not going to affect
He can be...
What do you project? What do you envision that is going to happen from his coming?
I'm a Rwandan. By nature, by nurture, and especially by experience. I don't expect a foreigner to solve my problems. It's last time I did, 1 million of my people died. Do you understand? I'm a Rwandan citizen. If there's any problem in this country, it's going to be fixed by me and my people. If there's a problem in the DRC, it's going to be fixed by Congolese people. Anyone who pretends to come from heaven to solve problems, I repeat, last time I trusted the world to solve my people's problems. 1 million of my people died. Before that, my parents were born in exile. I was born in exile. My grandparents fled this country 30 years, now 50 years ago, in 1960, in the 60s. My grandparents fled this country. They spent the next 30 years pleading with OAU at the time, pleading with the UN, pleading with everybody. How can we go home? How can we go home? How can we go home? It took their children to take up arms and fight their way here. That's how I came back here. So you think Blinken is going to solve my problems? I would be a fool to think that there's anyone other than my own people and myself who can sort out my problems. Congolese have been in this mess for more than 20 years. You know why? Because they have outsourced foreign solutions to their problems. MONUSCO is the problem and is the factor that perpetuates the problem, because Congolese expect MONUSCO, Blinken, X, Y, and Z to solve their problems. No one can solve your problem. You solve your problem yourself. If you don't solve your problem yourself, everybody you invite into your problems becomes part of the problem. That's my experience. Unless I haven't learned anything in the last, 60 years, 70 years of recent post-colonial history of this region.
Okay. So, but then again, being a researcher and then being someone who's been studying the political climate of Rwanda and then Eastern Central Africa, how do you think the people are welcoming the visit? Do you think it's like the people anticipate that, or the people are like, we don't care?
In Rwanda?
Yeah. Basically, what is the political climate around the arrival of foreign aid or foreign conversations?
So foreign aid in Rwanda represents 12% of the budget,
okay,
which means 2% of the GNP of the Rwandan government, 2% of their GNP and 12% of the national budget. We just had 4,000 delegates and maybe 40 heads of states of the Commonwealth were here last month.
Yeah.
This VOA is excited about Blinken's trip to Rwanda. People in Kigali don't know about it. There's probably someone more important or equally important who's in Kigali right now as I speak to you, and we weren't even informed of it. Maybe in the evening there'll be a tweet from the government spokesperson or the president. Oh, today I welcome my friend, president of X, Y, and Z. There's no news, man. It's news for VOA. It's not news for Rwanda.
All right. So you don't think it's going to change anything at all?
First of all, I'm certain 100% that it's not going to change anything. That one I give you 100% certainty that it's not going to change anything. The King of England, the Prince of Wales, and the Prime Minister of the UK were here in Kigali last month. You think they changed my life? You think they changed anything? Plus the Sultan of Brunei, who used to be the richest man, plus 40 other heads of states. You think life in Kigali changed? We are disabused. We are deflated by all this kind of hype.
Okay, all right, that's fair. Now let's go to other issues. I'll try and make this very quickly and then we'll go. Let's go to Paul. I never know how to mention it.
Paul Rusesabagina.
Paul Rusesabagina. So I'm told there's also a human rights issues involved in basically how Rwanda runs its human rights political opposition, not being an environment favorable. Do you think there's a role that Blinken will play in this conversation, or do you think he even has a voice in this?
I hope he plays a good role. He can play a bad role, and he can play a good role. And by the way, so the thing is, there's nothing better than everybody. You see, I'm here, seated here, and I know exactly what the Rwandan government will do. Rwandan citizens are aligned to what their government do. They know. There's no surprise. So, Paul Rusesabagina was an American resident. Not citizen, resident. He has citizenship of Belgium, but he's a Rwandan citizen of origin, right? He's a Rwandan citizen. This is his story. Paul Rusesabagina was a hotel staff. Then during the genocide, he happened to manage a hotel called Hotel de Mille Collines. During the genocide, because he was a manager of a different hotel and then landed at Hotel de Mille Collines and started managing this hotel during the genocide. Now, people in the hotel say that during the genocide, he asked them for money. Against specific guidance, instructions from Sabena, which is a Belgian airline of the time, which also used to manage this hotel, it gave instructions that no one is to be charged money during the genocide while they are staying at the Mille Collines. Paul Rusesabagina did not follow those instructions and started racketing people who were there, threatening to deliver them to killers if they don't pay. He cut water, people started drinking water from the swimming pool. So survivors of the Hotel de Mille Collines hate his guts. That's one thing. Now, Paul Rusesabagina flees to Belgium, becomes a cab driver. And then while he's driving a cab, there's a journalist who's coming to Rwanda, who writes for the Newsweek, called Philip Gurevich. And so he drives Philip Gurevich incidentally. And then Philip Gurevich, he tells them that he tells him his story. But Gurevich is fascinated. He presents himself as a Schindler. You know the Schindler's List? Yeah. He says, I was a Hutu managing a hotel in Rwanda, and I managed to save people by hiding them at this hotel. I negotiated, he says he gave corruption, cigars and cognacs to people who wanted to come and kill in the hotel. Philip Gurevich is fascinated by this, and he writes it in a book. Some Hollywood producers pick up the story and do a film called Hotel Rwanda. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Now, this film, Hotel Rwanda, goes on to become very famous, and when we watch it, we're like, oh, this is a good film. It is telling the world the genocide against the Tutsi. We don't care if Rusesabagina paints himself as a hero or whatever in the film at the time. But then he uses that fame to show his true colors. He starts going around saying he's the one who saved people. He says, but the government that came to power also committed the genocide, blah, 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 blah. He thought by doing this film and becoming famous in America, he's going to come and do politics in Rwanda. Now, again, like I told you, we don't expect people to... A Rwandan who's famous in France or in America is of no consequence to the life of Rwandans in Rwanda. Okay. He comes, registers to this political party called Liberal Party here. Okay. He wants to run to become the head of Liberal Party, doesn't succeed. Anyway, goes back to Europe, and he receives all these people prompting him to become a politician. And the only way to do that is to start criticizing the government here and so on. Now, there's a few things in his story that don't add up. One, people who survived at the Hotel de Mille Collines don't like him because he racketed them, ransomed them, threatened to turn them away, and turned some of them away. Some people wrote a book, one of the survivors, called Inside Hotel Rwanda, narrating the ordeal that they faced in this place thanks to Rusesabagina. But why did people get saved at Hotel de Mille Collines? Rusesabagina claims it's because of his doing. In fact, it is not, because France, we have writings that say France. It's in two writings. There's a book, France at the Heart of the Genocide Against the Tutsi, That's one book. But there's also recent findings by researchers from France in a commission called Duclercq Commission that both agree that France, being a member of the Security Council of the UN, during the genocide, instructed the government of Rwanda not to attack Hotel de Mille Collines. And France would use Hotel de Mille Collines as a token at the UN Security Council not to increase the mandate of the UN here. He told the Rwandan government, we are telling the UN here that there are safe havens where Tutsis are being protected by the UN, including Hotel de Mille Collines. But if you attack that hotel, the UN will be given the mandate to engage you, to fight with you. So don't touch that hotel so we can keep using it as a token while you continue committing genocide elsewhere. But we'll tell them that you have safe havens that the UN is protecting, including this hotel. This is findings in the recent research of this commission, French commission called Commission Duclercq, on the role of France in the genocide against the Tutsi, and in a book written way before, France at the heart of the genocide against the Tutsi. But, so this is the reality. And the hotel is called Hotel de Mille Collines, and Rusesabagina saved no one there. In fact, he was a villain in that hotel. Now, there's a movie, a fiction from Hollywood, that says Rusesabagina is a hero, Schindler. Now, reality is which one? Since when did Hollywood become reality and scientific facts? But Rusesabagina is portrayed as a hero only by Hollywood and people like that. Now, that's fine. That's lying. That's his problem. The main thing, now he starts collaborating with the genocide that I told you about in DRC, the FDLR. And then Rwandan government finds the evidence. Rusesabagina at the time was living in Belgium, and submits evidence against him for his collaboration with the militia, submits it to the Belgian police. Belgian police goes and does a search and seizure in his house. They seize documents, laptops, and phones. They go and look at them. They find overwhelming evidence of his support to a terror organization, the FDLR. They tell him, we're going to be forced to arrest you. He flees Belgium and goes to America. He becomes a permanent resident. And that's how he starts working there now. Because he can no longer work with this FDLR, which eventually is defeated, weakened, and so on. Now it's coming back because the DRC is funding it. But it was weakened at some point. He decided to start his own militia called the FLN. Now, this militia comes through the Nyungwe forest. They kill people. People here exist. Survivors, people who still have bullets in there. A woman who now says, I can no longer wear high heels. I had a boyfriend, he can't marry me anymore because she has a bullet. She has a hip, how do you call it? You know, when you have... She's limping right now. Yeah, limping. And you have other women who have been made widows. You have children who have been made orphans. Killed around 9 people. Rusesabagina goes, he's in the US. He's been decorated the Medal of Freedom by George Bush. He talks into universities and so on. He believes himself untouchable. He goes on television, on YouTube, and makes a speech. Do you remember when Al-Qaeda would bomb somewhere, and then you have Osama bin Laden with a gun saying, Alhamdulillah, Allah Akbar, we take responsibility for this? Do you remember those videos on Al Jazeera back in the 90s? Rusesabagina did the same thing. He goes on YouTube and says, since we cannot, the government of Rwanda does not want to negotiate with us, I believe that all means, we must remove this government by all means necessary. Which is why I call upon everybody, all the young people of Rwanda, to join FLN. This is a movement that just killed people in Rwanda, 9 people. The video is on the internet. He is the president of, he says it, he admits on camera that he's the head of this terror organization that killed people in Rwanda. On camera. And now, but Rwanda doesn't leave the matter there. They organize a way to bring him back to Rwanda. Do you still have tape?
Yeah, I'm still going. Go ahead.
So he goes, what happens is that when the Belgian police goes and seizes documentation at his domicile, at his house, they transmit all this intelligence to Rwanda. Rwanda dispatches, because we have judicial collaboration between Rwanda and Belgium. Rwanda dispatches judges and prosecutors to Belgium to discuss with them. They give them this evidence. Rwanda brings the evidence, finds that Rusesabagina has been communicating with people in Burundi, a pastor in Burundi. Then the pastor comes to Rwanda, they find out. So one day the pastor comes to Rwanda, they call him. They say, you've been collaborating with Rusesabagina on his terror activity. Pastor says, no, I didn't know he was doing terrorism. I was shocked by the video myself. Should I stop collaborating with him? They say, no, invite him. The pastor invites him, but claims that he's going to Burundi. He says, because his militia is based in Burundi, right?
Yes.
So he says, your militia is waiting for you to come and address them, and the Burundi government is inviting you, and they have hired a private jet for you. He's a megalomaniac individual. He says, oh, for real? Okay, fine. So he comes from where he was in the US, but he can't go through Europe because, remember, Belgium has evidence that he's been collaborating with terrorist organization FDLR. So they told him that they will arrest him, so he stopped going through Europe. Yeah. He goes through Dubai. When he gets to Dubai, he goes in a hotel, he meets this pastor, the Burundian guy. They walk nicely, having a chat in a limo, in a Mercedes and so on. They walk onto a plane. He thinks the plane is taking him where?
Burundi.
The plane lands in Kigali. He lands in Kigali, he comes. The last thing he knows, he sees Rwanda police telling him, welcome to Rwanda. You have the right to remain silent and so on. They read him his rights. They handcuff him. Do you see? No violence has been done, he's been lured. Now he comes, he gets to Rwanda. People, the prosecutor general and the head of the Rwandan Investigation Bureau say, this man has received the shock of his life. His heart is going to stop. Let's go tell him to take it easy, that no harm is going to happen to him. They go to him. Okay, they find him. They tell him, man, you have arrived in your country. We are not killers as you claim. We're not going to do anything to you. You're going to face justice. If you collaborate with the justice system, you're going to have a commuted sentence. You know, they tell him how the system works. They tell him, would you care for some wine? He says, yes. They offer him wine. We have a hotel here called the Migo, 4-star hotel. They have a waiter on standby. He ordered food, his favorite food. He's been eating. I remember his daughters and family in the US saying, our father has been denied food. That's when he was transferred from this detention facility to prison, and instead of eating from this 4-star hotel, he was subjected to food from the prison, and he started complaining about food. New York Times and the East African are allowed to give him the first interview. They come, they find him in an Airbnb looking room. That is his cell. Mosquito net, a bed, an office desk, a chair, a shelf where he can put his books. Some decent detention condition. They give him an interview for hours and hours. He declares in this interview that he's never been tortured, that he was treated well, that he's never had a problem. They published this. New York Times published this on day 1. Day 2, New York Times started publishing now articles saying he was tortured, he was renditioned. They say he was kidnapped in Dubai. Because the UAE doesn't want to have any problems with the world, it writes to the UN, UAE, I'm talking about the United Arab Emirates, Dubai. They write to the UN Human Rights Council. They say, we want to clarify, we have footage. No harm has been done. This man walked on his 2 feet in good conditions, chartered the plane, went peacefully. We have footage because airports have cameras. Yeah. This man has not been tortured, has not been renditioned, has not been kidnapped. We have evidence. The letter is with me, is with everybody, where UAE writes to the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. Right? Rusesabagina, we have bills from the hotel being paid by the Rwanda Investigation Bureau of him eating food and being given wine. He comes to Rwanda. They tell him, listen, if you cannot... He had $3,000 in his pocket. They say, we see you have money because they search you before they arrest you. Yeah. You have to hire a lawyer. He says, no, I can't spend. This is my money. This is my savings. I say, okay, we're going to like write this paper that you are a pauper, like you're a poor man, then the bar association will give you pro bono, free legal representation. They bring 3 lawyers. He interviews them. Okay? Normally pro bono you get 1. He gets 2. He says, I want this one and this one. They say, okay, fine. Get 2 lawyers. He gets 2 lawyers. You see? These 2 lawyers, he writes to the bar association. They represent him so well. These lawyers, I know them. I'm a lawyer as well. So they say, he's too much work. They had to deal with his correspondence between him and his family. Everybody wants to visit him. The politics, the media, the health, the issues, all these things. Rusesabagina says, but I have a heart condition. They say, oh, okay, for real? Okay. They transport him from his jail cell to the best hospital, private hospital in Kigali called King Faisal. He receives medical checkup, they give him medication, and so on. His family sends boxes of things and say, tell him to drink this medicine instead. Prison says, that's not how people, you're not doctors, you're not pharmacists. We have pharmacists and doctors. He will take the medicine that the doctor has decided he takes. Yeah. One day, people from the embassy of Belgium, they go to Rusesabagina. They go with this medicine for him. They say, he's not receiving proper medication. We want you to give him this. Because Belgium embassy, you know, he's Belgian citizen. Yeah. They say, okay, but sign here that you are responsible for the effects of this medicine on him. Yeah. They say, no, we can't sign. They say, okay, in that case, go back with your medicine. He has medicine, he has a doctor, he has everything. There's been so much going on around that.
So, based on your record, you claim there's no human rights abuse. Is that what you're saying? You're a human rights lawyer.
Yes.
And you have access to the information in the records. Are you saying there's no human rights abuse here?
In Rwanda?
Yeah, on Paul's life.
No. I'm telling you, for example, he writes. So, there are claims. Let me tell you the claims. Rendition. Right? I've told you the UAE has refuted that, not Rwanda. Torture. Rusesabagina, in an interview with the New York Times and the East African, said he was never tortured. And also, I have bills that he was given wine and food from a 4-star hotel. That's not torture. That's the opposite of torture. He didn't receive lawyers. I have a letter from Rusesabagina writing to the president of the Bar Association of Rwanda, thanking him for the free legal aid services that he gave him. Free and fair trial. Rusesabagina's trial has been televised, live, for everybody everywhere in the world to see. Do you understand? So everything, I cannot say he's been Roman abuse or not. I'm telling you evidence. Of what I see.
So why is the United States interested
in him? So because Rusesabagina is a Hollywood star. Because you have all these Hollywood people that wear t-shirts now saying Free Rusesabagina, the people in Hotel Rwanda. You have some people in his community where he used to live who are doing these petitions to their representatives. You know, Americans have these representatives of their county or of their whatever who are in the Senate or in whatever. They have in this community where he lives, people who believe the film. This is the only film I know of Hollywood. Perhaps people believe these things, but I never believed any of the Rambo and Commando and Bruce Lee nonsense. But people believe that Rusesabagina is a hero because they saw it in a film. So these are the people who are putting pressure on American politicians. And American politicians are saying, oh, free Rusesabagina because he's a Hollywood star. They say, no, we can't do that because Kevin Spacey, who did House of Cards, is a Hollywood star. He's now in jail because he molested children. R. Kelly, who's a Hollywood star, I suppose, a musician, is in jail. Harvey Einstein, and so on and so forth. Now, Human Rights Watch. That's what I was looking at just now. A gentleman called, someone give me a second.
Oh, sure.
No, it's fine. A gentleman called Nouri Hamid, I think. Hang on. Hamid Nouri, correct. Was an Iranian politician. Okay? He was, according to the West, to Europe, that he was a terrorist. He was lured into Sweden. Under similar circumstances as Rusesabagina. Prosecuted, jailed. He's spending 25 years in jail today. The entire world congratulated Sweden for this. A few days ago, the United States conducted a drone strike on al-Zawahiri, the head of Al-Qaeda. The entire world congratulated. The American president declared that justice is delivered. Everybody congratulated them, correct?
Yeah.
They killed Osama bin Laden summarily. There was no trial. Everybody congratulated them. Rusesabagina personally claimed, that is the head of a militia thing that was killing people in the Nyungwe forest. After it had killed these people, he claimed that he was its head. He was lured in Rwanda peacefully. The only thing, he was tricked, but peacefully. Nobody touched his hair. People are saying this is against international law. Which international law do they read? I mean, I studied international law. There was nothing that was done to Rusesabagina that violates the law. And, by the way, his trial was televised, live. Every day we had testimonies from Americans, an American professor, okay? An American professor who went to volunteer to Rusesabagina Foundation because he created the foundation saying he's helping children of Rwanda. He collected money. No child in Rwanda, you can do your own research, has ever benefited. We never saw this foundation. Money was for his political agenda, probably sending it to the FDLR, the genocide group, or in starting his own group. This woman went to volunteer at the foundation, and it's a professor in the United States. And then she found out over time that she was not doing any work of foundation, she was doing political. She came and did a testimony of 2 hours in court in Rwanda, American woman. The Burundian man who lured him did a testimony. People came from all over the place, and the evidence we are using against Rusesabagina was furnished to us by the Belgian police.
So here's a question. Are you trying to say that there are double standards here?
You are an African. Don't you know that there are double standards? Not here. There's always double standards. I mean, we are Africans. The United States will claim that is in partnership with the rest of the world in fighting terrorism. And it's true. All the countries, including ourselves, we work with the entire world on the fight against terrorism. Because terrorism is a global problem. But a famous terrorist, because he has a few friends of Hollywood, is no longer a terrorist. He claims himself, I am head of a terror organization. Well, he doesn't call it a terror organization. In this case, he calls it a freedom fighting organization that's killing people and burning cars and so on.
Okay.
He claims that himself, but they say, no, this man must be released. Now, on what grounds can he be released? How can the Rwandan government explain to us, the Rwandans, that they are releasing someone who's killing the Rwandan people and pretend to be in our best interest? American politicians are asking Rwandan politicians something that Rwandan politicians cannot do. Because Rwandan politicians are there representing us, representing the women. I wish when Blinken comes here, I wish they give him a session with all Rusesabagina victims, because they exist. They're not ghosts. I believe, I hope, as soon as he lands in Kigali in the press conference, there will be 50 people who are widowed, orphaned, and maimed by Rusesabagina's militia's attack. I think that's what's going to cool him down if he comes on his high horse. He'll say, oh, by the way, these human beings you see here, they have a story to tell you. I'm sure he has a caucus of people over there who tell him a different story, but we'd like him to meet also these people so they can speak to him. I was not a Rusesabagina victim. They are Rusesabagina victims. I'm not making this up. Do you see what I mean? Yeah.
Okay, so now here's the last question. Security. Globally, there was the Russian Prime Minister, the Russian Foreign Minister who went around Uganda, a few other places. Do you think this visit is also just, with conversation, what is aligning in the world, like Russia, Taiwan, China, and everything? Is this a conversation of people? Do you think it's really about you and Congo, or is just people just making friends?
No, but that's the beauty of it. Thank you for coming finally to the gist of this visit. This visit is not about Rusesabagina and Congolese, and which is why I told you, remember I told you, we Rwandans, we've seen it all. Man, we lost 1 million people. So it makes us quite sober as to all these people who come. We want to see what's in it for them. Blinken is in Rwanda because Rwanda is an influential country on the continent, on the African continent, to some extent. We were in charge of reforming the AU and so on. Blinken is in Rwanda or in DRC to counter Lavrov's tour. He's coming to rally Africa in favor of the Western coalition against Russia. Lavrov was in Africa to rally Africa against the West. Now remember, at the UN, Africans are more pro-Russia because more than 60%, some people don't know this, but more than 60% of the veto that Russia opposes to the UN Security Council are on the request of Africans. Africans' man in the UN Security Council is Russia. Let me clarify that. So that there's no Congo. Congo is, by the way, it's AOB, any other business. So they will speak of the main things. Blinken is coming here for the main topic. The main topic right now is to rally African support to the interest of the West against Russia. He's coming to counter Sergei Lavrov's trip around Africa. So I'll tell you what Africa's attitude is, and then I'll tell you what Rwanda's attitude is. What's Africa's attitude? Again, let me repeat. More than 60% of the vetoes that is imposed by Russia in the Security Council is done at the request of Africans. Africans don't have a seat at the Security Council, which is unjust and unfair. Late President Mugabe used to say this all the time. But so Africans always request the Russians to impose a veto usually against the 4 other members, 3 in fact. No, China is not involved. The 3 Western members of the Security Council, every time they want to take actions against Africa, Africa asks Russia to veto that decision. Africa's man at the Security Council, and I hope other Africans are watching this, is Russia. Do you understand? This is since the United Nations exist, the country that protects our interest in the Security Council is Russia. In our fight for independence, the country that was protecting African interest is Russia and the USSR. By the way, Western media can only fool people who don't know history. They will tell us that China's coming to Africa is new and is bad, and Russia is bad for us. But we've been here for as long as everybody else. We know who have been our friends consistently. China has never attacked any African country. China has never done any harm to us. Russia has been our man in the United States Security Council from the day the UN was created. Do you understand? In our fights for independence, Nkrumah, you come from Ghana. Nkrumah, if you ask Nkrumah and Samora Machel and Patrice Lumumba and Amilcar Cabral and Nelson Mandela, you ask them who is their friend. They will tell you it's Russia. These are my ancestors. These are my people. That's who I learn from. I don't learn from BBC and VOA and whatever. So that's the African attitude. We are freedom fighters. Some of the people who lead the African Union come from what they call frontline states. Now, SPLA in Angola, MPLA in Angola, SPLA in South Sudan, Frelimo, ANC in South Africa, CCM in Tanzania, the RPF. Bro, these are freedom fighters, and the country that the Battle of Quito Carnavale, the support of Cuba to the what was his name? The president of before Dos Santos, Agostinho Neto in Angola. So we know who Russians are. If they are fighting in Ukraine, I don't condone war in my life, right? But they must have a good cause, because I know they are more honest than anybody else that I see on the planet. Okay. Because you see what I mean?
All right, sure. But here's the question.
Now, let me tell you what Rwanda's attitude is now.
Okay.
This is I'm a Marxist, so I evolve from a left side. But the Rwandan government isn't like that. They don't have a zero-sum game. What they will tell Blinken is what they will tell Lavrov if they come. They'll say, we cannot get involved in your war because we don't want to have enemies versus friends. Rwanda doesn't have a zero-sum game like if you're my friend. The President Kagame goes to China after China goes to Russia and then to the US, in the same trip, in the same week, he does that. Sometimes they meet here. Modi of India was here while Xi Jinping was here. They met here in Kigali. We don't have friends versus enemies. We don't play those games. Blinken is mistaken if he thinks he can come to Rwanda and promise things that will make us come out against Russia. We can't. We don't do that because we know Rwanda doesn't have that. Even this story I'm telling you about the frontline states and so on, Rwanda is not even left or pro-Russia no, it's usually a very pragmatic. We have our own problems to sort out. Our own problem is FDLR in the DRC. That's our problem. What is happening in Ukraine and Russia, we have no means, no capacity, no power to change that. We cannot get involved. That's what I think the government's attitude is.
So this visit, do you think it changes the dynamics of global politics and Rwanda's role?
In what language can I tell you that this visit is inconsequential? How can I say this? I'm sorry to disappoint you. I know you work for VOA.
No problem.
I told you Modi of India, that's 2 billion people. No, 1.5 billion people. And Xi Jinping, that's 2 billion people. That's half the world's population. They met in Kigali in the same week and life went on. Now, if those two can meet in Kigali and nothing changes, do you think Blinken, who has 300 million people, can change?
I get where you're coming from, but I'm just saying that in the landscape of global politics, do you think this is going to change anything, or is going to
no?
Nothing?
The answer is no.
So this is not going to change anything. All right.
Because if I would be a fool, okay, to believe. Don't you remember Trump going with his son-in-law to fix Israeli-Palestine problem?
Yeah.
What happened? Did it change? The problem, was it so? People of Rwanda will change the people of Rwanda's life. People of Congo will change their own lives. No one. The visit is inconsequential. Well, I'm sure he's going to maybe he's going to say after the meeting that he accepted to give us another package of maybe another few $1 million of aid. But even the aid is inconsequential. That's what I'm trying to say. Which African country has come out of poverty as a result of aid, foreign aid? Do you know one? So these things we are past beyond that.
Okay. So if you're describing this visit, give me a description of this. What do you think this visit is?
I don't have.
Do you think it's a gimmick? Do you think it's what do you think?
I don't have a description.
You don't have a description for this?
I don't think about this visit. There's no. Which visit are we talking about?
Okay, that's fair. All right. Any other last things you want to say?
No, thanks.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.